Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to this month's LinkedIn Lovin' Live, where we're shining a light on the world's leading B2B social media platform, that is, of course, LinkedIn. So today I am quizzing the wonderful Rebecca Newenham, who is the founder of the award-winning Get Ahead franchise, and I'm going to be quizzing her about how she uses LinkedIn. So I know that LinkedIn's been a key part of Rebecca's journey since she launched Get Ahead, and she's now a world-leading global franchise leader as well. And it's helped her grow her business. She's connected with franchisees, and she's built a community locally through her LinkedIn Local Guildford events and also globally. So I'm a huge believer in learning from others who make LinkedIn work for them and their business. So I'm delighted, Rebecca, that you're here to share with us your wonderful practical tips. So thank you, hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. I'm super excited. But just before we start, if you're new to these LinkedIn Love-ins and wondering what the heck they are short, bite-sized LinkedIn learnings over lunch. And each month I'm joined by a guest expert to share their expertise on subjects to help support your LinkedIn activities and results. Now, I do like to make them as interactive as possible. So if you've got any comments, please do put them in the comments box and we will get round to them. But I do have a little question for you to begin with. If you want to share with us, what's your relationship with LinkedIn? Would you call yourself a lurker, a liker, or a lover? So Rebecca and I are both lovers. I think we can fairly agree on that. LinkedIn lovers. So we're going to find out exactly what it is that you, Rebecca, love about LinkedIn. So come on, tell us your secret sauce to LinkedIn. What is it about LinkedIn you love so much?
Yeah, and I have to say, Judy, I've always loved it. So I've been set Get Ahead up in 2010. So I think I've probably had an account since probably 2009. Martin, my husband, had one with his corporate role, and I had that FOMO. I didn't want to miss out, but I also thought if I'm setting up a business, I probably need to be on it. And yeah, it's certainly proven to be my most favourite and probably most productive social media platform. And I remember not thinking of it necessarily as a numbers game, but whenever I went networking, I always thought, right, this is a way for me to capture people together. So I would naturally, and I've always done that, whenever I've gone somewhere, I said, oh, can I find you on LinkedIn? And obviously over the years, it's become much more of a popular way of doing it. And we've got that little code, haven't you? That little QR bit.
Yeah, the QR code, yeah.
So all of that is, I can see that taking off even more now, but it's always been my way of collating people together. And when I launch a new franchise, I'm often quite envious now because I think I wish I'd put little notes against where I'd met people, because it is sometimes quite easy to forget, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And you know what? Back in the older days, we're going to come on to this because you joined in 2009, I joined in 2006. But when I first started training LinkedIn, you could actually put notes against people on the free version. Wow. And of course, they got rid of that because it's too hugely, beneficial for people.
Yes.
And they have to pay LinkedIn lots of money to do that. But so obviously, we've both seen LinkedIn change enormously since that time. I still think there's some fundamental aspects to it that really haven't changed at all. But what do you think's changed on LinkedIn in that time?
Yeah, and sorry for my phone ringing. I thought this always happens. No one rings our landline except when I'm on a live. So apologies for that. I'm living the dream here, being authentic. I think the biggest thing for me that's changed is that level of being authentic. I think when I first started, I would put a blog on, I would be professional. Well, I think now it's certainly shifted and there's much more of people being a little bit more all round and sort of sharing things. And things like my daughter's graduation picture, I probably got one of the biggest interactions over a longer period of time than I have even on some of my sort of business posts. And I think there is a bit of backlash, isn't there? And sometimes people are saying it's become more like Facebook for business. But personally, I do like understanding more about somebody and not just seeing the sort of the long form post about a particular topic. It's quite nice to sort of get a little insight. And I noticed one of my connections put a post up about an ice cream van that had appeared on her road a couple of weeks ago, and she was sort of saying, oh my gosh, a bit late now, all the kids have gone back to school, and that got, I think, over 40,000 impressions. And again, it's not a numbers game, but she was saying this is weird. you could get some little posts that just seem to blow up out of nowhere.
It just captures people's imagination, I think, doesn't it? And it just then, as people start to engage with it, and it just goes, and it's, I know, and a lot of people have that frustration, don't they, where they post something they think is important because it's relevant to their audience, and it gets nothing, and then silly posts, but go wild. And stuff. And I always go, oh, you know, it's not, you know, LinkedIn's not a social media platform, but I guess when we get posts like that, it is, isn't it? Which is so interesting. But yeah, I mean, you know, LinkedIn definitely is still a person platform, isn't it? And we still have to. And I think this is what you've captured beautifully on LinkedIn, is this rounded presentation of yourself, your personal mixed with your business and things like that. And yes, some posts get more interaction than others, but it's that rounded bit I think that you've achieved.
Well, I think it's tricky, Judy, isn't it, when we're generally all doing more than one thing. So I've got my Get Ahead business, which will always be my core focus, but I've also got the networking, my naming celebrant, you know, mentoring, and we're all made up of lots of bits. And I think that's my personal branding piece for LinkedIn. Is my tip for anyone is to see it as you and your personal brand, and work forms part of that, but it's having a confidence to sort of achieve different areas of promoting yourself, not just the job. And I get, you know, if you're in a corporate role, it is quite hard and it's quite restricting sometimes. And I've always been surprised at that, because obviously I've never had it in a corporate role myself, but when I've had franchisees join, I've noticed that there are certain restrictions about what people can and can't put out there. So when you're launching something for yourself, anything's possible. So it's hard sometimes to sort of rein yourself in, or equally have a confidence to put things out that you might think aren't necessarily relevant.
100%. And I think, you know, it is about having that, being able to blend it and having that confidence of doing it, isn't it? Which I guess you've built up over time, haven't you? You've, because LinkedIn itself has changed and become much more personable, realistically, hasn't it? I'm loving some of these responses, by the way, to the question that we asked about people being a lover, liker, or lurker. Keith tells us it's complicated. I can believe that, Keith. And we've got Georgina, who's liker, hoping to become a lover, but Kate's got mixed feelings. How can we move these people who are, and Rebecca's a reluctant, you know, how can we move these from being reluctant lurkers to LinkedIn lovers, do you think? What do we need?
Well, I think, I would say my sort of top tips are make it a daily habit. So often when I'm launching a new franchisee, I'm often saying, well, you know, put a timer on and sort of set yourself for 15 minutes. Because I think that's another big thing. People often say, oh, it's so time consuming, I go down a rabbit hole. So perhaps get a little system going. So I will always look at my notifications, and I look at them daily, and then I'll decide if I want to respond to any of those. And I'll also respond to birthdays and anniversaries. And if you're not in the mood for perhaps posting, that's often quite a nice thing to do, is see if it's one of your connections' birthdays. It's always lovely to get a little message. And obviously they always set you up sort of fixed responses, but I always amend those and just sort of make something more personal on there. And so that's a quick win. And I think a big thing for me is not just ever liking or putting a love heart or a celebration, but always making a comment. And I know sometimes you can overthink it, but it's nice to put a comment on, and then that gets shown on that person's feed, doesn't it? You never know who's going to see that. But if you're just going, oh, like, it's a bit lazy. And also you want to make a difference. You want to show that you've thought about it.
Do you know, 100%. And I think going back to, you know, we were talking about how LinkedIn has changed. And I think for me, fundamentally, LinkedIn is still a networking platform. And I think if you look at LinkedIn as a networking group, as opposed to a social media platform, and actually think about how you would go networking and treat LinkedIn in the same way, it just gives you a way of approaching LinkedIn. And that whole thing, the catch-up notifications that you're talking about, a fantastic way of just keeping in touch with people in between, you know, any sort of individual meetings and things like that. So
actually sending those DMs are really powerful, and often I'll link people together on there, and it's a way of keeping that message together, isn't it? But then also, that being said, you don't want to then be part of someone else's conversation page, so I'll always then take it off and say, oh, I'll message you directly. So it's about reducing the noise but keeping it contained at the same time.
Exactly. And I guess, have you seen, obviously our comments are now getting impressions as well. Have you noticed your impressions, your comment impressions doing better than your posts?
Yeah, no, and I sometimes think, oh, blimey. So, and I think you've always said to me, it's not necessarily all those thousands of people seeing it or hundreds of people seeing it, but it's that it's been presented to them within their feed, hasn't it? Whether they've actually seen it or not. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
100%. I'm a big, you know, and this is what gets me about LinkedIn and seeing it as a social media platform, because you then fall into the whole kind of social media trap of going, oh, who's liked, who's seen it, you know, and stuff, and chasing impressions, which you know, doesn't mean to say anybody's actually seen your post unless they actually engage with it. So,
yeah. And that, to that point, Judy, I think my sort of rule is always, if someone takes the time to comment on one of my posts, I will always respond. And I think that's, you know, that's an easy thing to do, but it's interesting how many people don't.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if anybody's got a question for Rebecca they'd like to ask her about and quiz her about how she's using LinkedIn, that'd be fantastic. But 100%, I think, you know, again, for me, the comments is the conversations that you're having with people. So if somebody puts a comment on your post and you don't respond, you're just basically ignoring them. As if you were face to face. Like,
yeah,
it is rude. It is 100% rude. It is indeed. But it's you know, it's so interesting, isn't it? You know, if we think about LinkedIn as a networking platform, you've got your personal brand, the people you connect with is in your network, and then your comments and your posts are your conversations. So when it comes to building your network, would you have any firm or fast rules as to who you connect with or how you connect?
Well, if I generally respond to in a positive way to most of the connection requests. Often if it's out of the UK, I'll just sort of double check. And I think if we've got quite a few mutual connections, then I'll sort of think, well, possibly that's easier to say yes. But I'm a very hot, if I accept someone and then within minutes I get oh, would you like to buy from me? I'm like, no, thank you. So a big thing for me always is I will craft, and I see my news feed and my connections as being, you know, very personal to me. So I've got the ability to remove them if I want to, and I never see that as a bad thing. And I will always say that to my team as well. You want people in your network, in your LinkedIn world, that who you want to be connected to. And I think that goes, we've spoken as well, Judy, haven't we, about in the past it was seen as good manners to always send a personalized connection request. That's not viable now unless you're on premium. And even now I get the nick if someone sends me this long why they want to connect with me. So, and I think because we're doing so much on our phones, it's so much quicker, isn't it, and easier. That's how you connect. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but I am very quick to block someone if I think they're not who I want to have in my LinkedIn world.
Yeah. And I think that's key, isn't it? Because we're talking about, you know, your use of LinkedIn and how you've built. So LinkedIn Local Guildford is, you've obviously built your network locally, and then you took that offline, and you're one of the few people that have managed to successfully do a LinkedIn local event. How did that all happen, and what made you kick it off?
So I went to one locally to me in person, and then thought, actually, I've been franchising the business. I don't do much in Guildford in Surrey where I am because I've got franchisees there, but I thought I love networking and I would like to have an opportunity once a month to see people. So I tried it out, and then it gained real traction. And I think it was during lockdown where I invested time still in having it online, and we had breakout rooms and had some lovely people hosting those. It was once lockdown came out, people then seem to suddenly have much more of an appetite to come, and it's really snowballed. And I now do a morning meeting and an evening one, because we all know that some people are better and more available in the morning and some are better in the evening. So we do two now, and I also do more of a road show. So it's been a wonderful way to showcase local venues by hosting it there. So we get the venue, and then I've also introduced sponsors. So we have a spotlight on a particular business, and they help me meet and greet, because I've always been a big one for that. You know, if you go to a networking group and someone just ticks you off the clipboard and you're left to your own devices, you know, I know we're all adults and we're all capable of speaking to people, but I always have wanted to feel that there's a connection and that people are welcome. So by having a sponsor to support me and good old name badges, it's been a really nice shift. So yeah, we've gained some really good traction, and I love it. I really, really love it. And we get new people every time, and it's just really opened up the sort of the community locally.
I think, isn't it, how you've been so successful with doing that? What is it about your events, do you think? So, because we did try them in Leeds, but is it because Guildford, is there that much networking in Guildford, or?
Oh, there's loads. There's hundreds. Yeah, I think there's something ridiculous like meetings. I think,
and actually, everybody there.
Yeah, so interestingly, our Get Connected events, which are our get ahead events, we do a lot, majority with Metro Bank. They're a similar scenario, and I know Fiona, my franchisee in Leeds, is doing great things there with hers. So actually, it's finding that formula, and I think it being free, but also the fact that you're on LinkedIn as a static profile, people are quite keen to actually get out and meet, and there's been lovely collaborations going on within the community as a result. So I think it's certainly not that there isn't choice in Guildford, it's just the way they seem to evolve, and I've had some real loyalty from them, and I can see lovely Keith and Vicky and Rebecca and Sarah on the chat that all come a bit regularly, and it's people's support of it, so it's great.
It is really interesting, isn't it? Because it is that it's that merging, isn't it, of online and offline. So you've met them initially maybe on LinkedIn, and then you've got to know them face to face as well. Just going back to sort of posting on LinkedIn and commenting, Sarah here has put that, you know, she must get better at responding to posts, and it's a confidence issue. And that made me wonder, because obviously you work with franchisees and that you provide them with a lot of marketing support. So when it comes to LinkedIn and you're working with new franchisees, do you find they have any sort of hang-ups when it comes to using LinkedIn?
I think, yes, some do, which is why I use you, Judy, to do some training. But often I find if like I said earlier, if they've come from a corporate environment where it's been something they've got to do, but they're not quite sure, they've never really had some training on, I see that as being a little bit of a barrier. But because the majority of us are getting great traction from it, absolutely, the training that you give and that we give internally really, really helps. And I think I'm always saying, you know, take it slowly. Like I said earlier, set a timer, be present. And if you're anxious about what to post, do the commenting before you start posting.
100%. I think that is a really key tip, isn't it? You know, because people often say to me when I say I do LinkedIn, they go, I should post more. And I'm going, well, is that really your first step? Because where is this? There's a comment here about how, you know, it feels like people are posting into the void sometimes here from Kate, you know, and actually I agree with what Kate says here. It is easier to build relationships if you think about you building relationships rather than just posting. Because I think you mentioned this, don't you? One of the mistakes that you see people make.
Yeah, I talk about don't be a megaphone. And, you know, if we go to a face-to-face networking event, we all know the people we can't bear are the ones that go, this is me, here's my card, it's all about what I do, and don't ask the question. So I take that approach here as well, not just going, woohoo, look what amazing things I've done. So I'll often say, if I'm doing a presentation about LinkedIn, the posts you need are a blend. So ones with photos of what you're up to, one long form perhaps with a blog, but then perhaps another one where there's a little bit of a sales pitch. So it's weaving those into your sort of content, but getting a blend to it is really important.
I love that. So people can see what you're doing and what you're up to, and they get a sense of who you are. And you do have to tell people how they can buy from you as well, don't you? There does need to be the odd kind of more salesy, I guess.
I think, and I think you've probably seen it as well, Judy, that number of posts where people put content and then there might be a little dash at the bottom and then a bio about what they do. So there are different ways of doing it, and I still get a bit frustrated, if I'm really honest, at LinkedIn Local. I think people think that's all I do, and I wish, but it's how people receive you, and it's up to you sometimes to be a little bit directive about what you're up to.
It does, and this is an interesting question from Keith as well. You know, would we recommend premium?
Well, interesting.
I know my response to this, but I don't know what your response is.
I only just gone back onto premium. I haven't had premium for years. I was away on holiday. I thought, well, I'll give it a little go. But I have to say, I'm not noticing a huge difference. What I am noticing, I get then into who's been really looking at my profile, and that's where they're crafty, aren't they? Because they'll often say, if you're not on premium, so many people have been looking for you, or there are so many opportunities you've not got. So personally, unless you can justify it, I don't personally see the need. But what's your view?
No, 100% I agree. I mean, LinkedIn is moving, and I think Keith would agree with this as well, to more of a pay-to-play platform. But, you know, so they are restricting the number of personalized connection requests you can send, and also how many who's viewed your profile views that you can see and things like that. But I personally think you've got to have a very good return on investment, because it's not cheap. I don't know how you've got the Business Plus, the premium. Well, not the Sales Navigator. I mean, I've got Sales Navigator. That's now, if you join that, it's like £100 a month or something. So you've got to have a really good return on investment. And I still think there's ways and means of going around it. So if we were to look at somebody's coming along, we've got some people here who are kind of, you know, a bit uncertain about LinkedIn. What would you say, or what would be the top tips you'd give them to actually start using LinkedIn and help them grow that confidence?
I would say, like I've sort of said earlier, the daily routine. So make it a daily practice, set the timer if you've got lots of other things going, but it's the consistency of showing up makes a huge difference. Doing the notifications, if you've been to events, you know, that's a quick win. If you're going to an event, I went to a lovely one yesterday in a gallery. I took some pictures. I popped it on my company page, and that's always interesting. You know, should you have a company page? But for my LinkedIn local, I popped it on there because it's the local to Guildford one, and tagged a few people. So there are ways of doing some rather nice ones that get interaction quite quickly. Obviously, you don't want to go tag too many times, but it is a nice way of just bringing things together. So I wouldn't overthink about what you're going to create. And you could argue that you might want to do a marketing plan for the month to make sure you're getting a good mix of things, but you can overthink that as well, can't you, Judy? I think
you can. I think you made the comment already, didn't you, that you did a post really off the cuff and it got lots more engagement than the ones that you think about.
Yes, and then some ones I think these are going to be really great, going to get loads of traction. It sort of hardly goes anywhere. And I think it's just, yeah, there's often no rhyme or reason, but it's the blend of posts, and also thinking about topics that you can relate back to your business. How you solve issues for somebody is always a really good one. And perhaps if you've seen questions at networking, you can weave those into a post as well if something is sort of coming up for you in there. That's often quite an easy way to talk about something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is about not overthinking, not getting too hung up on it, is it? You know, because I think you've already said, number one thing, if you're not happy or you're not quite ready to post, don't worry about posting. Go and comment, because that's still going to get you visibility.
Yeah, and what's the worst that can happen if a post doesn't go anywhere? So what? You know, it's just regular activity. It's true though, isn't it? You can overthink any of these things. It's just getting out there. And I'm often surprised. I had a prospect franchisee call this week, and she said, "Oh, I saw you on Google and maybe on LinkedIn." And then Natasha, who's recently joined us, she said, "Oh, you were everywhere." Well, sometimes you don't think you're everywhere, but it's amazing what the algorithm does to pull content together. So don't get het up on the fact that you might not be getting immediate leads in. It's all part of the bigger marketing mix, isn't it? Not just that one opportunity.
It's about being visible, isn't it? And so, you know, in terms of, you've created a blended profile that mixes your, you know, personal and professional lives. So you've got a profile, your personal profile that represents people. So if anybody wants to go and have a look at Rebecca's profile, go and see how she's done that and stuff. And then your posts, what you talk about, will be from your various different elements of your business life and personal life. So you'll talk a bit about personal, you'll talk a bit about business, you'll talk about LinkedIn local.
Yes, and sometimes I think, well, what am I talking about today? But actually, it's the remembering that it's, you know, me and all those different elements. And Dave made a comment about, you know, some of us don't know all the different functions available on LinkedIn, and I think that's another thing. You know, pinning your featured posts, for example, and having a think about how you want to be known is really important as well. And then if you've got I was going to say, if you've got a company page, so we've got, I guess, head page, for example, I'll often go in as an admin on that as get ahead and comment on posts. So that's a little quick win to do. But then also, if you've just started a business, don't worry about a company page. It's more noise. It's something else to worry about. So it's understanding actually how you want to approach things and not feeling you have to do absolutely everything.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, there is a lot to LinkedIn and it's easy to get overwhelmed. So it's about focusing on just the core things. And when you say set a timer, how long you know, on that, it's far better to sort of, you know, spend a short amount of time and do it consistently rather than do massive
15
all
minutes
the time and then never go on for a week.
The 15 minutes will get you a long time. And often if I'm out and about, I'll often have a quick little look on there and make a few comments. So it's about sort of fitting it in, isn't it? Not making it a big chore. And I probably use it more on my phone than I do on my Mac.
Yeah, which is interesting because 70% of traffic to LinkedIn is from the mobile, so that would make sense. Alan's here has got a great result. He won a contract from somebody who's never interacted on LinkedIn, but was driven to him by LinkedIn. So that, I mean, it just goes to show, isn't it? You think that you're not getting any visibility from your posts, but you just, you know, I'd much rather have the right people coming to me than, you know, lots of
absolutely. And I think also if we Google our name or put it in ChatGPT, for example, LinkedIn is often the way that you're being noticed, isn't it? Your profile actually has got strong SEO.
Exactly. And I love this from Keith as well. Actually, this one from Keith. He's free. I know that. I'm free. That's for people who are a lot younger than us, probably have no idea what we're talking about there. But he's right. Yeah, they do tend to grandfather you in if you do pay for a premium. So yeah, it's an interesting thing indeed. The other thing I wanted to ask you, because I get asked this question a lot, is there a good time to post on LinkedIn?
I always generally post in the morning. So if I think, you know, obviously everyone knows you can schedule posts and things. So if I'm suddenly thinking either I save it as a draft or I'll schedule it, I'll often schedule it for sort of around 9 o'clock just before. Or if I'm doing it live, I'm generally doing it in the morning because that's when I'm most active. And that seems to then gain attraction. So if I'm hosting at LinkedIn Local, I'll generally get the photos for that and pop them on the next morning rather than sort of rush and do everything in the evening. And I think it's because I'm on it, I'm assuming everyone, and I think you probably would agree with me about mornings seems to gain most traction, doesn't it?
I tend to find that I still post mornings, and most of the kind of, you know, the scheduling tools, you know, the Hootsuite, they all still say that the best time is to post in the morning. But because there are so many people going via the mobile, you know, equally it could be another time, but I still say mornings. But I was just interested because to see if you posted at a different time. I know some people will actually post on a weekend, and I do quite like that as well. I tend to do more personal posts on a weekend as well.
Yes,
and Jackie here. Oh, sorry.
No, that's right. Yeah, what's Jackie?
I was going to say Jackie does a timer as well, so you can spend a morning commenting if she doesn't watch the time, and that's a problem, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's like going down rabbit holes, isn't it, at times?
Yeah, and I think another big thing, and probably a number of you have noticed as well, that the algorithm is sending posts from 2-3 weeks ago. So actually that proves it doesn't really matter when you're doing it because it's still being pumped out as content.
Exactly. That's the good old algorithm for you. So what activity in particular do you think has had the biggest impact on helping you grow your presence and your
is consistently showing up
on LinkedIn?
Yeah,
and by that you mean posting and commenting.
I mean consistently posting, not necessarily daily, and I will always have a break and do, you know, go on holiday and bits and pieces like that, but actually the consistency of showing up has proven to be the best way for me to sort of get, and responding to other people's comments will then be driving profile views and things. And actually hosting the events has been a really good profile raiser for me. I might not necessarily get clients from it, but I certainly get visibility.
That's really interesting, isn't it? It's about, so the number one thing for everybody here who wants to get better on LinkedIn is to show up consistently by posting, by engaging on other people's content, and intentional engaging, I think, as well. That's really key.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, who you engage with is what you're likely to see in your news feed. So it's about thinking, who do you want to see more of, and things like that. So that is really interesting. For me, it would be also make sure you've got a good profile, because that's going to position you. It's a website, gets you found on Google, and people will come and have a look at you.
And your photo, and that your photo interacts you, and that your photo looks like you. Because I've had so many where I've had an event and someone rocks up and it's a pit, you know, I thought they were going to be 10 years younger. So it's about having that confidence, and however much some people don't like having their picture taken. And I know you, Judy, like me, you like a picture. Actually, you need to be relevant, so people immediately have that sense of knowing you because you're looking the same as you do on your profile.
Do you know what? And that's what it's about. You know, again, think of it as networking. You know, how you appear in person should be how you appear on LinkedIn, really, shouldn't it? End of. You know, don't overthink it. I think that's the key thing.
Yes.
Don't overthink it. And you know, you yourself previously have said to me about relax and be yourself on LinkedIn, and don't worry about, you know, being someone else. Don't overthink, and just go in and enjoy it. Yes, absolutely. You know, nothing's going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen. And I just want to finish with this from Sarah, who's attended her first LinkedIn Local and really enjoyed it. So if anybody does live near Guildford, you need to go in and check Rebecca out and join one of her LinkedIn Locals.
And as I said, our Get Connected events are running around the country. So again, they're very similar concepts. So
yeah, very true. I go to Fiona's event in Leeds. So anybody's interested in that, please do come along. And that would be fantastic. Can you believe we've actually run out of time?
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you. About it all.
Is there any final thoughts you want to give? Sorry, Rebecca. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, do connect with me, and I'm always open to give any advice on anything in terms of LinkedIn and things like that. But just really enjoy it and make it your daily habit.
Very, very wise advice. Thank you so much again, everybody, for joining us today. If you've got any more questions, please do put them in the comments box that Rebecca and I will get back to you and answer them. But thank you for joining us live. And until next time, we shall see you then. Bye for now.